Another anime battle for y'all today. And this one is an interesting one, cool one. FMAB, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. These two characters, people like them both, right? My favorite character, Roy Mustang versus Scar, the Ishvalan. And he ain't the last of his people, but he's the last of his family. So, you know, during the Ishvalan War, you know, Roy Mustang was heeding calls to Fear Bradley. He took care of, he wiped out some of those Ishvalans, right? Now, he wasn't the one who killed his family, but he's still a part of that. They went in there, and then they also took some Ishvalans and used them to create a Philosopher's Stone, on the side, right? Um, Mr. Scar was then, he found himself with his brother's arm, because he lost his arm, due to Kimberly. It was somebody else, another alchemist who, caused him to lose his arm, right? Grafted his brother's arm onto his body. He swore not to use it. He used it at the end of the series against Wrath. If you were Bradley, you know, Roy Mustang figured out that Roy Mustang figured out that Fuel Bradley was a homunculus. Then he was trying to get all the people around him because he's like, once all this is cleared up and, everything's taken care of, I can probably become the Fuhrer. But he actually also cared about, the soldiers and, nobody knows about this, but actually everybody was in on it, all the higher ups. Most of them were, except the people from Briggs who were in the north, near I think Drachma is what the northern region is called. And, those people came down to help him out, Roy Mustang out. He still had some allies beside him and another older guy. But they were there at the, promised day, and they were fighting against Father. Scar actually defeated Wrath, because Mustang lost his eyesight. I'm just giving you a little bit of insight into these people. Roy Mustang, again, my favorite character. Colonel Mustang, he's known as the Flame Alchemist. He has a glove that has a transmutation circle on it. Every time he snaps his finger, boom, he can set off explosions. Fire, boom. That's how he killed Lust. That's how he killed Envy, right? This guy, Ishvalan Scar, he's tough. He took on, Mistress by himself. He was on a path of revenge. The elders of his village was like, no, don't do it. And he's like, I don't give a fuck, I'll make this right. And he killed a lot of alchemists too, And these alchemists use, different abilities. These guys are, good to fight one another. It's not like one's way more powerful than the other one. Don't listen to those guys. They probably lie. They don't look at objectively, I think is the word, right? Now, let's get into the fight, right? Strength, I'm giving that to Scar. Scar is a tough guy. He's strong physically, he can lift a lot. His striking power is nothing to scoff at either. Speed, I'm giving it to Mustang. I think he can move a little better, speed-wise. Not by too much, but he's still, quicker than Scar. But durability is definitely Scar. He's, built like a tank. Endurance, I'll give it to Scar as well. Like, again, he was taking on a mistress by himself. Um, because he wanted to get revenge on what they did to, his family. You know, he lost everybody he cared about because they wanted to run on his people like that. So he decided to take it to them. Um, and if you're one man against like basically the world, it's like not fucking easy, right? So, and he's still, there at the end of it, right? So I give it to him. Intelligence, I'll give it to Roy Mustang. He's a colonel, so he has to know how to delegate, tell people what the fuck their job is, you know, give them the right orders. And especially when he went against the Fuhrer and he was trying to get, other people on his side, right? People who weren't with the Fuhrer or didn't know about him being a homunculus. He had to really plan shit out, right? Still play like he was, cool with that, but really working on the side with um, Ed and Al to figure out how to, get rid of these guys. Um, Experience, I give it to Scar slightly, not because Roy Mustang don't have experience. He has experience for sure, but I think that Scar has been in more fights because he has to. Again, it's like one of those things where he didn't have nobody on his side. Like not even the old people of his like kind were like, don't fight no more. You don't have to do that shit. And he's like, I can't. My brother this, my brother that. I have to get revenge on these guys. They gotta pay for what they've done. Because they'll probably do it again. You know. And I'm like, he's the only one who's like, out there fighting against him. Um, Experience, I give it to him slightly. Close skills definitely go to Scar. He always runs up on him and grabs their face. Boom! And once he grabs your face, you're fucked. And then if he grabs your like arm or something like that, that body part's probably going away. Range skills they'll go to Mustang. And at the beginning of the fight, Mustang will have the advantage. Believe that shit, son. He'll have the advantage for the beginning of the fight. Because Scar has to get in close. Now, Scar does have some range skills, but those fire attacks are not weak, man. He's like, he's hitting, Scar, damaging him from a distance. Recoup, I'm giving that to Mustang. Mustang, even after he lost his sight, he was still fighting against Father a little bit. At the end of the series, Scar, he recovers decently, but I'll give it to Mustang. You could, pick who you want to win that attribute, right? But Hacks, I'm giving it to Scar because he had the one arm he always used, but then the other arm he didn't use until came time to beat Fuhrer Bradley, and it gave him the edge to win. He's like, I haven't used this arm at all, but because I refused to, but now I'm going to use it to, win. And that's probably what's going to give him the win against, my favorite character. Even though he has the advantage in the environment, because the environment is in Central. I centered this fight in Central, Amestris, where all that shit took place at the end of the series. And Mustang does have the advantage there. But when it's all said and done, Scar's probably going to win. Because this guy can take damage. He's a fighter. Again, he's basically against everybody. Not because he's a villain per se, but and he ain't really a villain. It was all orchestrated by Father and the homunculus, right? He had to come to find that out. Mustang had to come to find that out. He accepted, both powers, the powers that his brother gave him with the arm, the other arm, right? And he was able to defeat. If you were Bradley, I don't know if Mustang could have done that. I give this fight high to extreme diff, and Scar wins. Be cool, call in the corner. Let me know what you think about that fight in the comments below.